going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Release Valve. I am your host, Sean Hanlon, and we often talk about mental health on this podcast, but what goes hand in hand with mental health is physical health. Working on your physical health has a profound impact on how you feel mentally, and I am fortunate to have a guest who can speak volumes to this. She is a personal trainer, an exercise physiologist, health coach, health educator, and much, much more. I am very excited to introduce Dr. Alice Burron. Welcome to the Release Valve, Dr.
Oh, I'm
Burron.
very excited to be here. Thank you so much.
No, I'm excited too. Again, we before we got going on the recording, I was letting you know that the little tidbits that I was looking into you and the little looking at your website and a few of the other podcasts that you've been on, I was very excited to have you on as a guest. I feel like more people need to understand how big of a struggle this is as far as working on your physical self and how, like I said, how that goes hand in hand with your mental health. It is so important to, especially as you get older, move your body, keep yourself active, and that again has such a profound impact on your mental health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fascinating subject because we're all connected from top head, from here, between here and here is all that psychology going on. And we think it's isolated. It's like you can just move the head over here and treat it. It doesn't work that way. We're
Right.
physiologically connected, and all of our systems are talking and intertwined. So, what we do down here from the neck down really does impact from the head up, like a direct impact for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and your history and what led you down the road of physiology.
Well, it's a long story. I'll try to keep this kind of short, but it is kind of interesting. So, when I started in school, it was in biology, just seemed kind of generic, and then I was thinking pre-vet, but I changed my mind to look at humans instead of animals. So, biology turned into zoology, kind of combo, and then I graduated with biology though, and then what's next? I had no idea what to do with this degree, so I went on to get my master's in exercise science, and I just found that to be fascinating. But really, three things inspired me from there to be where I am today. And I think the first thing is just what I learned in the textbooks, like, oh my gosh, all these systems are interrelated. How do they work together? You impact one system, you're going to impact them all. Nothing is isolated and working in and of itself. They're all connected. So that to me was kind of this aha moment. And you can see it in the biochemistry. You can see it cellularly. You can see it in the hormones. It's just unbelievable. Once you start to dive into that world, even cellular biology, it makes you go, oh my gosh, we are so lucky to be alive. Like this could break down at any time, but at the same time,
Right.
man, is this the most incredible orchestration of events to keep us going each and every day. So that was fascinating. And then the second thing was I was very lucky to work with a very intelligent doctoral student on his thesis. So he did his thesis on overtraining cyclists and cortisol and stress. So what he
Okay.
did was he put these college cyclists on bikes and he just trained the heck out of them, and he had a protocol, trained them for about 8 weeks to the point where they weren't hungry, they weren't, they couldn't hardly walk, they were getting
Yeah.
sick, they weren't sleeping. I mean, he really overtrained them, but this was all being done in a very controlled way. We weren't hurting them in too badly. But while they were on their bikes, we were taking blood, all along with cortisol levels. And if you can imagine this room, and there are all these cyclists, and the phlebotomist is going from cyclist to cyclist, taking vials of blood, and they're at their peak max, and she's drawing blood and blood squirting everywhere. It was quite the scene. But anyhow, I I was privy to all that data and privy to understanding that something like exercise could induce so much stress on the body. But what was
Mm.
really fascinating about that was the recovery. So he let them off for 2 weeks, no training, just eat whatever you want, sleep whenever you want, and let's see how you recover. And then let's compete at our big competition. I think it was a Stanford race in California. So all the cyclists, and I mean, I was there racing too, but I certainly wasn't overtrained like they were. But we were all at this cycling event, and we were so curious, like, are they going to win? Like, what's going to happen? And they did so much better than they would have. And yes, we did. We won the region. So that
Wow.
was really fascinating to see overtraining and then reducing all that stress and then going out and actually being better because of the stress
Mm.
and recovery. So, stress and recovery, physiology, exercise is the inducer of the stress. All kind of like started to connect in my head like stress isn't all that bad. Stress, regulated stress can be really good. We need to know when to rest, right? All these things started to make like sense and click in like
Mm.
pieces of a puzzle were coming together. And then the third thing that really, when I was in college, that just kind of sparked my interest was my own physiology. So I decided to experiment doing things, in sport too. So I started bodybuilding and I was a super skinny, weird looking, like serious beanpole, no muscle, and started to bodybuild. Like, what? And I think I just had friends who were doing it. So I decided to try it. And I went to the gym early in the morning, in the middle of the day, in the evening. I was walking cardio in between. I was burning all the fat. I was eating all the things. And I basically got big. And I thought, oh my
Mm.
goodness, you can change physiology with exercise too. Like you can change your genetic makeup. Like I'm genetically small. My wrists are small. I'm considered small bone, but you would never know now because I have all this. Well, I have some fat now, but I was all bulked up. And then competing and learning about what would win a competition or not. Genetic makeups, how age played a part, and hormones plays a part in
Mm.
bodybuilding, which I learned all about that. And then went on to cycling, and then went on to running, learning more and more as I went through all these different sports, and it just blew my mind to like it unveiled this amazing machinery behind the human body that
Mm.
could allow us to go through so much and come out so much stronger and change ourselves through exercise was this new concept for me. But not only that, you can change your genetics, which epigenetics became a real interest too. So I did my doctoral or my master's study in on rats, and so I overtrained rats of all things
Wow.
on a treadmill and looked at young, medium, and old rats. And I wanted to see just how exercise could induce changes in skeletal muscle myoglobin, which transports oxygen in the muscle itself. And I
Mm.
wanted to see what would happen, like as they exercise more and more and we overtrain them as well, what would happen. And sure enough, those changes were evident. It was statistically significant that the older rats had an increase in skeletal muscle myoglobin after this intense, high, intensity exercise training. So all of that led me to go, oh my gosh, I love this stuff. This is
Yeah.
absolutely the best, most coolest, thing to, be involved with in my career. And then went on to work in a hospital system working with cardiac rehab patients in recovery. Isn't it interesting to think that you can recover a patient with exercise? And that to me was another
Right.
mind blowing, like, wow, how do you recover a cardiac patient? Exercise. And
Yeah.
again, back to that, the exercise. And then I finally am now in the core four realm. Exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep are really key to foundational health. And they are underutilized. And I wish I could tell the world, you have so much power over your health, more than you think. You can do so much more to your health and level up so much more quickly if you just leverage those four things. So that was my
Right.
long story.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. I love the fact that you were already kind of heading down one direction, one path, and got to a point of like questioning what am I doing here? Why am I'm I just kind of was doing this. And I feel like that's something that so many people can relate to, especially you go to college at such a young age and you're told at an even younger age, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to do? And you feel like you kind of have this kind of pressure to figure it out early and then just go do that thing. And I'm not sure what it is for women, but I know for males, the frontal lobe isn't even fully developed until the age of like 25, right? But you're going making these decisions on what you're going to do for the rest of your life when you're like 18.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they get into that position and then yeah, they're like, I don't
No,
know, I
no.
don't want to do this.
Right.
So
Right.
to be in that position and then find something that you do want to do, that you are interested in,
What a
that
gift, huh?
piques your interest in, yeah, what's going on over here. And then the more you find out about it, the more you fall in love with it. And then, yeah, you start going in a direction. And then there are other different avenues that you could take once you head in that direction. Oh, this is involved over here. This is involved over here. Oh my goodness. Like the possibilities are
And it's still
endless
doing
of where I
that,
can go with this. Yeah.
It
Yeah. I
never
love
stops.
that. I
Never
love that. And
stops.
that was part of one of my first questions was first I didn't even realize that there were different types of physiologists, that some focus on plants, some focus on animals, and then humans as well. So it's really cool to hear that you started out on one side of that, and then again, due to what was piquing your interest, kind of led you over here, and seeing how you were able to not just study this, but have it change your own life. Work
Yeah.
on yourself a little bit while you're doing it, and learning more as you're learning more about yourself. I mean, the possibilities are literally endless, because that's a lifelong study that you can pursue. If on
Indeed.
nobody else, you can pursue it on yourself, right?
Indeed. You are the great experiment, I always say.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And one of a few of the things that you mentioned in there, I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Andrew Huberman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he talks about the six pillars of health, and I've mentioned on this here before, but a lot of those things that you mentioned are some of those six pillars of health that he likes to focus on. Sleep, diet and nutrition, movement, sunlight exposure is one of them, social connection, stress management, how you manage your stress, your recovery, right? The things that you go through, how do you handle that? But again, some of the most important ones, at least in my book, are sleep, diet, movement, and then yeah, that stress management for sure. I guess they're all really super important, you know.
Yeah, I call it the core four in my world. So in my book, I wrote as the core four is exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. And I chose
Mm,
those primarily because if you don't have those, you die. Like you
right,
really will just die. I mean,
right,
you can
yeah,
go through stress your entire life and maybe not die. And there is, extreme stress where you will, but for the most part,
right.
we can actually live within a high stress environment our entire lives and not die. And so
Hmm.
that's kind of why I chose that. And you can live without direct sunlight. It's not healthy and you won't look good and you won't feel good.
Right.
But at the same time you can do it. So that's why I really chose those four. They are
Hmm.
ridiculously foundational, but they're also ridiculously powerful. And
Right.
so I think we underestimate them and I think we just forget about them. They just seem too obvious.
Exactly. Yeah. They're so basic. Oh, sleep. I get plenty of sleep. Yeah. And it's like, well, what's the quality of your sleep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I move every day. I get up out of bed. I go to work, and it's like, yeah, but that's just surface level.
Right.
What are you doing to better your health by moving with intention, right? That's one of the things that for myself, because only speaking for myself here, I went many years. I grew up an athlete. I played so many different sports as a kid. My parents were great with that. With whatever I wanted to try, they were willing to. Yeah, let's go do this. Let's try this sport. Let's try that sport. At the end of the season, if you don't like it, we can try something else. So I was very athletic growing up, and when I reached my early 20s, it just kind of stopped. I started heading in the direction of wanting to work and make money and socialize with friends, but I stopped moving my body with intention. And for the next 20 years, I was feeling it. I was really, really feeling it. I hit my early 30s, and getting up out of bed in the morning, you would have thought I was in my 70s or 80s. It was bad. My joints were very achy, clicking. I was very weak. And it was one of those things that was like, at the time, I was like, I'm 33 years old. This is crazy. Like, I should not feel this way. And so I just kind of made it a point. I was like, all right, I need to start moving my body more. I need to start taking care of myself in that way. And it was hard at first. I wanted to jump back into the shape that I was in my late teens, early 20s. I hurt myself a few times trying to do that. And then I let that get the better of me for a little while. And then I started being smart about it. Stretching was a huge thing for me. Water has made a huge impact that I never would have thought of beforehand. Drinking more water has made such a difference. But yeah, those kind of core essential things that are so easily overlooked and forgotten about,
Yes.
like you said, were the main things that I just kind of started focusing on. And now I'm probably in the best shape of my life.
Don't you wish everyone could say that?
Right. But
Yeah.
all it took was having that mindset of, okay, I'm going to do something about this. What can I do? And yeah, it was focused on those basic ones, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of psychology behind our behaviors, as you can tell, right? Like why
Right.
we don't really think about these four core behaviors, why we don't do what we think we should do. We know we should do, and we still don't do them. And that's what really kind of dove me into a whole nother realm. So back to the original, so there's so many different kinds of physiologies, or like there's a lot of life sciences and biological sciences and
Mm.
physiological sciences. And I was involved in the human physiology world for quite a while, so that's where I stood. But at the same time, I was missing something in the psychological world. Now, sports
Mm.
psychologists kind of cross the psychology versus physical, right? They're trying to understand psychology in movement. So they're kind of crossing that line. But what I didn't understand is why people weren't doing something and why they were making the decisions they were making, knowing that they probably knew that exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep were a good thing. And
Mm.
so I started to go down the psychology track in addition to the biology track. So I crossed those. And behavioral psychology, behavioral economics, decision making science became my new fun road to go down. And trying to cross those two together is where I land today, just going, all right, we know we should do all of these things, but we need to take a step back and not think about it just as exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep as outside of ourselves. And instead start to ask some deeper questions. They're more fundamental. Why aren't we doing those? What is it that what do we want to see ourselves in the future to be like?
Mm.
How can we just take one step further so we can get there? And starting to shift the language more of this nurturing of our health rather than telling people we needed to do all those four things. So I don't tell people those four things as much anymore. Instead, I ask them questions. I always feel like the answer is always in a question. It's like, well, so tell me more about that. What do you think is going on behind that? Could there be an emotion getting in the way? And a lot of those are
Mm.
just the psychology side where I can start to really dig in and find out. And health coaches do this really well, and that's where it started, honestly. Health coaches are amazing because they can really
Mm.
start to ask some of those deeper questions and get
Yeah.
people to self-actualize, like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Oh, I didn't realize that was getting in my way. Oh, I don't have to manage my health. I can just nurture it. Just the
Mm.
subtle shifts in language can make so much difference. And honestly, our culture does not allow this very well. It's telling us, go to your doctor, do this, take that, supplements,
Right.
all the things, do. And I say now, no, don't do, think, and then do. So we
Yeah.
need to stop and really like ask ourselves those hard questions like, why do I want to try that supplement? Why aren't I getting the sleep that I need? It's not, oh, you're not getting quality sleep, get quality sleep. It's, well, let's back up. Like, what do you think's going on there? And then not just telling them the list, the beautiful list of things to do, like sleep hygiene, which that term just makes me kind of gross out. It's like, I don't know what that is, but it's weird. Let's just talk about what is it that's going on in your life that you think has changed since the last time you slept well
Oh, I love
and
that.
more psychology focused. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love kind of reversing it, turning the mirror around and having them be honest with what they're
Yeah.
looking at there, and
Yep.
yeah, what is the cause, instead of, yeah, so many people want that easy quick fix of, let
Absolutely.
me take this pill and it's going to make me better. And it's
Yeah.
like, but that's not going to do anything. The pill isn't going to change your lifestyle. It's the lifestyle choices that you make that have led to where you're at now.
Yeah.
Yeah, how come, oh, I can't sleep. Okay, well, instead of taking this pill that's going to help you sleep, like you said, ask the question, why, what are your nightly routines before you go to bed? Well, you got the TV on, you're sitting there on your phone all the way up until your eyes are closing. You're eating within an hour of going to sleep or getting into bed. All these little things that people don't think about, but they have such a big impact on you. And when you're doing all of these little things, it compiles on top of each other. Well, yeah, no wonder you're not sleeping good because you're doing, X, Y, and Z when you should be focusing on A, B, and C,
Right.
right? I really like that because the answer is there. And like you said, we know, but it's so hard to yeah, kind of, call a spade when you're the one that
We
is
don't
in the
like to
driver's
think.
seat.
We'd
Right,
rather
yeah.
act than
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's hard. It's hard. It's a
it's
tough pill
really
to
hard.
swallow.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've found is that once you release people from having to do all the things and just pick one and try it
Mm.
out for a little bit, and they can define little bit. It could be a week, it could be 4 weeks or 6 weeks,
Yep.
and see if it makes a difference is a little more doable. So that's really goal setting, right? But they're just picking one thing, like the sleep hygiene, where there's a list of things, can be really annoying and overwhelming. When instead you can just look at, let's look at your nightly routine. Is there one thing there that maybe could be changed? And just, making sure that the individual isn't feeling forced to do that, because that's then extrinsically motivated, by someone. Do it, do it, do it, instead of going, I want to do it, which is really this intrinsic motivation. Really what we need is to want to do it. And so we have
Mm.
to find the reason to want to do it. And sometimes it's just a matter of why not. And I love that. I think that's a great question. Why not? What's the worst thing that can happen? Low risk to just not be on your phone before you go to bed. I don't think you're going to
Right.
miss anything, but you can identify risks later and just say, look, gee, my friend called in the middle of the night and I had turned my phone off. That, I guess that is a risk, but at the same time, how often will that happen? And just kind of looking at it from a bigger perspective. And I think a lot of times we just look at one angle, and I actually just wrote an article about this today, where it's like we are just kind of one angle thinkers. We like the quick fix. We like to look at the one thing. But I say there's times to think about your health and make a health decision fast, and there's times to make a health decision slow.
Mm.
And before we do that one thing, I recommend people just slow down and pause and just think, what am I expecting from this one thing? And put that
Mm.
realistic expectation in place before they actually embark on this big adventure of supplements. Because are you going to be taking this supplement forever? Is that the expectation, or is this a one-time thing? And
Right.
it's so funny. I actually had a really good conversation with a friend of mine, and she said, I love supplements. And I said, oh, you do? Tell me about that. And she said, well, they work. And I said, well, that is an interesting generalization. Tell me more. And she said,
Mm.
well, I'm on 5 supplements. These are them. This is why they work for each. And I just think they're great. And I said, do you think that's true for everyone? Yes, she says. And I just kind of went, yeah, well, that all of a sudden, and I'm pretty blunt. I'll say it. I'll just say it in the room. And I just said, I think you might have a bias, pro supplement bias.
Hmm.
That might be a dangerous place for some people to go. And it might be
Yeah.
something you want to use, in your future decision on whether or not to try supplements. I mean, there's got to be a litmus test. Is it working? How do you know it's working? And if it's placebo effect, even, that's okay. Own it. It's
Right.
like, hey, I like this ubiquinone. I don't know if it's working or not, but I think it is, and I'm
I
going to
feel
keep
like it
taking it.
is. Yeah.
And I
Right.
feel like
Right.
it is, and it's low risk, and I don't mind the cost, and I'm all in. It's like, okay, you thought through that. Go you.
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
most people don't. They're like, I'm going to take it for a week. Oh, it didn't work, and they stop. So it's a
Yeah.
different way of approaching it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. No, you're right. And we're such creatures of habit that, yeah, when we fall into a routine of things, it's our comfort zone. This is just how we
it
do
is. It's
things.
easier, much
And
easier.
yeah, right, it's just easier to do that. And I feel like when people want to make a change, and I've talked about this before too, being at A, looking at Z, and getting overwhelmed with everything in between,
Yeah.
feeling like you need to make this big, huge overall change. And I love what you said about, sometimes it's just that one little thing that you need to alter a little bit, just kind of shift it over here just
Right.
slightly and see what that does for you. Go
Right.
go with that, and if that doesn't work, okay, let's try this other little thing, and you can kind
Exactly.
of poke and prod at little things here and there instead of just Yeah, because it's
And
not
start
easy
there.
to.
The
Right,
fact
right,
is, if you
yeah.
can do the little thing, you can do the bigger thing, and then the bigger thing, and the bigger thing, and it just does compound
Right.
that way. But also, if you do a little thing, and another little thing, and another little thing together collectively, they may actually gain momentum faster, towards healing. So it's a
Exactly.
matter of just being rational and thinking about it rationally so that there's a process you go through before you go do the thing, so that you are more aligned with it first off, and the other is that you're more bought in, so that's the second thing, because if you're not bought in, like, okay, I know how long this is going to go and I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to track the results, and then I'm going to decide what to do after that. To me, that's just so, so thoughtful. But I think that's where we have to retrain ourselves. It's a skill like any other, and I think we just have to kind of train ourselves to not be impulsive. And really, I do, and that's kind of what I tell people. I fight impulsiveness in health, so I really help
Mm.
people make better health decisions. And I mean, it could be anywhere from, trying to figure out what to do in the midst of a health concern or crisis. I don't know what to do. I'm scared, and just making a rational plan using medical, complementary, and lifestyle interventions. They're all available, but you can wield them and manage them in such a way that you feel like you really have a good plan moving forward. And that's what we do
Mm.
now, as my company does today. I have health navigator coaches that help people through that. And so at the very end, that they feel like they have a strategy. And I think that's all it is. It's just a system. And no system is not a system. Well, it is a system, but it's a really bad one.
Right, right. Yeah, it's like that saying, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you have a team that is all on board with that same goal in in that approach of what it's like to or what is needed to help everybody because it's going to be different for everyone. But I love that you're putting the power in that person's hands as far as asking them those questions about themselves. It's not this one size fits all easy fix, just do this and that's all you need to do. Yeah, let's get to know these people a little bit, who they are, what they do, how they do what they do, and then we can start seeing what changes that need to be made and baby step into it a little bit.
Absolutely.
With what you do you find that there's kind of a common issue that arises in most, or is it literally just everybody is so different that yeah, it's something new every time?
That's a fascinating question. I think there's two ways to look at it. From the data, it looks like we're all kind of making similar poor lifestyle choices. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at 64% of our population has a chronic condition. Over
Mm.
half of those have more than one. And then on the other hand, 80% of people, when surveyed, say their health is good to excellent. And so there's a disconnect, right? It's a fascinating
Yeah.
juxtaposition, and I'm trying to, understand how to actually approach someone to see this for what it really is. You're really not in that good a health, but you think you are. So what's happening here? And so I call that maybe a lack of health humility and really
Mm.
notching people down a little bit, to be more open with themselves and recognizing that they aren't as healthy as they think they are,
Mm.
a little bit, but not in a bad way, more in of a curiosity way, like, all right, that opens up all kinds of options for me to get better. And I think that's where Pandora's box opens, where there's so many interventions available, including the core four. But I think the biggest obstacle is health humility. I feel like, there's so many people I talk to and they think they have the answer right off the bat. Or if they listen to their cousin and they're taking or they're doing this diet, then all of a sudden they're right. And I just think that if we were a little more humble in general, this might help that juxtaposition kind of level out. And we were starting to see ourselves more realistically so that we can actually, face the health issue that we really have at hand. But I would say, as far as like, if we're looking at it from a medical perspective, chronic conditions, that are lifestyle related are most of those 64% of chronic conditions. They're mostly lifestyle
Mm.
related. So we're seeing a lot of challenges with exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep.
Yeah.
And they are the
Yeah.
ones that people struggle with the most. And I think it's because health misinformation has been a real problem, in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
So we address that first. I think that's, besides addressing the core four, we really do dive into, what is health misinformation? And how can you discern good information from bad? How do you look at it from all the different angles? I actually push people to be a little disruptive to themselves. Think about it from the other direction and kind of counter yourself with a counter argument. Like, what would the opposition say to what you're about to do? And then just starting to kind of really get yourself practiced in thinking outside of you. And I think we have
Yeah.
this box that we think within. We're limited in our thinking. It's capped a little bit, but each time we do this, we kind of raise the ceiling, and our cap goes higher and higher. And then the next thing you know, we're thinking broader. We're able to handle more. And so I think it opens up those healing potential possibilities. And all of a sudden, they feel like they have more control over their health. So health humility, and as far as chronic diseases, anything lifestyle related, is pretty common human condition among Americans today.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That Western diet and the
Yeah.
Western lifestyle. It's it's crazy. I remember seeing it was like a picture of a beach with all the people at the beach from
Yeah.
like the 70s or something like that. And everybody was thin, lean, um, in great shape. And then you see a picture of people at the beach today, and there was quite the difference.
It's a
Not trying to.
starking difference.
It's
Yeah, startling.
crazy. It was very startling. It was concerning, and it was one of those things like I
Yeah.
didn't really notice it until I had that comparison. It was like, wow, what happened? And I think you're right. I think it's the lack of honest information that's being given. And definitely one of the things with us as Americans is we've become very sensitive to our current state, and that has become such a thing that people are afraid to be blunt, like you were saying about yourself, and just kind of, like I said, call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
This is the situation at hand. You're going to take it however you're going to take it, but I'm
Yeah.
going to be honest with you with what's going on
I
here.
think we need to
And
be honest. Yes, I think
right,
we
yeah,
do.
and that's kind of the thing where I feel like a lot of people shy away from that. They're not being honest with it. They're not being open. They're not being forward with it. And yeah, we just kind of like, well, it is what it is, and I'm moving on. It's like there's more that you can do. Yeah, it's great that you feel good about yourself, but do you think that you could feel better about
Oh, I
yourself?
love that. Yes.
Right? So I think that's something that you're so right that we need to just really start being honest with ourselves more than anything, not necessarily focusing on other people as much, but yeah, be honest with yourself. You are at a 5 and you feel good at a 5, but at a 10 you would feel great,
How would
right?
that feel? How
So
would you look? What would you be doing that's
right, what
different
does
than
that look
at a
like?
five? And that is a coaching
Exactly.
technique, by the way. You've just picked it
Ah.
up intuitively.
Well, all right.
If you had to be a
Uh,
health coach. You
yeah.
are.
Well, it's something that again, as I was saying, I got to a point in my life, and I wasn't morbidly obese or anything like that, but I was honest with what I was seeing, what I was feeling, and it was like I can do more. I actually have it written down on my whiteboard over there. It says you can
Yeah.
do more.
Yeah.
So do more, and that was
Yeah.
just the main thing. I wasn't doing it to impress anybody. I wasn't doing it to, I just wanted to feel better. I was fine. I was okay with where I was at, but I wanted
Yeah.
to feel better. I have kids now,
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to run and play with them. And I even think forward, it's like, well, eventually there's a possibility that I could be a grandfather. I want to be able to run and play with them too. I
Yeah.
don't want to be
Right?
that old decrepit man that, oh, be easy on grandpa, he's old. It's like, well, no, I want to
Yeah.
run and play. I want to
Yeah.
have a good time with them. I want to be remembered as the one that, yeah, my dad played with us. My grandfather played with us. And
So you
so it
used a
was
technique called visualization. So you
right.
actually thought of your future self, and we use that technique a lot as well. And I wrote about this in my book a while, that when you are, thinking that your diabetes is okay and to eat a lot of sugar and have diabetes is fine, imagine yourself like at a restaurant, 10 years from now with all your friends and you're at a beach and you can't have any of the food, you can't eat anything there, and you have to go, do your insulin and all of the things, and you can't walk on the beach with all of the apparatus, and maybe you have pulmonary lung disease, like, and then maybe you have no teeth. I don't know, like give yourself the worst
Right.
case scenario, and just put yourself there, and then do you want to be there? Just visualize that
Hmm.
for just a second, and see
Yep.
if it doesn't impact how you feel about yourself today, because I feel like we really do want to envision our future selves more often than we do, because I feel like time's so fast, like it just flies by, right? And the next thing you know,
Right.
you're still feeling the same way as you did 20 years ago. And that's wasted time, honestly. It's
Right.
unfortunate wasted time. But I think
And we
most
don't get
people
that
don't want
back.
that. You can't get it back. And I don't think people want that to happen either. But I don't
Right.
like people feeling out of control with what's going on with all the fast food and eating out and
It's
all the
tough.
things. So I kind of put a cap on that too and say there's so many things that are in your control. You get to
Hmm.
decide what you put in your mouth. That's in your control.
Yep.
Like nobody's forcing you to go through the drive-through. Nobody. Last I heard, I don't think there's like
Right.
this, police that makes you go to the drive-through
Right.
every
Gun to
day.
your head. Go buy that burger.
Exactly. So that's in your control.
Yep.
So there are some things that I think we like to play the victim
Yeah.
a lot, and I think that's not a healthy way of living. To be a
Mm.
victim in life is really disempowering. You feel like there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do that's going to change everything. That is not. It's absolutely not true. And even if you don't have a lot of money, there's a lot of things you can do within that world around exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. It doesn't take a
Hmm.
lot of money to do those things. It really doesn't. It doesn't mean you have to buy all organic. It just means don't eat out, Or I know
Right.
I'm going to get pushback because people are going to say fast food is so much cheaper. And I
Conveniency.
mean, it could be from where you live, in the country, and there are some things you can't control cost wise, but I would say control what you can. You can do a little better, right?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah,
anyway,
that's big. I can do better. I can
I
do,
can do a little
yeah,
better.
something different. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes me feel better, and then I want to do more that's better, and then it just compounds. It
Right.
kind of gets you
Yeah,
out of the
and
rut.
I love that starting small too, that coming back to that,
Yeah,
yeah, eat out one less night out of the week,
exactly. Drink
just
one less
trade
sip
that
of that
off.
soda, right? Like
Right.
just start small. Yeah.
Yep.
You don't have to do an overhaul. And health isn't something to manage. It's not like a bank account, where I have to, go down to the last penny and like balance it out. That's not health at all. Health is something
Hmm.
that is part of you. You nurture it. Through every action, you're nurturing it or you're not. And so if you kind of turn it around, it's like it's not something to manage and outside of you, it is you. And so you get to nurture you. Only you can do that to you. So how are you
Right.
going to love and nurture you? And your health is you. And so I think,
Mm.
we have always separated this health is over here, I'm over here. I've got to take care of this, this health thing. And it's like, no, your health, it's you. It's
Right.
you. You're it. You don't
I
take
love
care
that.
if you don't, in other words, take care of you.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
take care of your health, take care of you.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah,
be good.
exactly. It's not this external thing that
It's not.
it's not like a plant
No.
that you got to go and water and
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
And when people,
it's all right
other
here.
countries don't see it externally, they see it internally. I lived in
Mm.
Japan, they do. I lived in South America, they do. It's like
Mm.
they don't see it as something outside of themselves. It's all in one. And there's like just a matter of balancing you. And it's all usually a balance. They're
I love
doing
that.
chi balancing or energy balancing, and,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of ways to do that, and different countries do it differently. But that's another way to look at it too. And I mean, if the American way doesn't work, try another way. There's so many different interventions, complementary interventions out there that work on energy balance, that work on stretching alone, as a way to get, your joints happy and healthy. There's so many different ways.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's really Pandora's box. It's lovely. It's so fun. You can't stop because there's so many. It'll never end. It'll never
Right,
end.
right.
All the way
No,
from
you're
meditation and prayer, journaling. There's so many things that are free. So much.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. You're so right. We've
Hmm.
talked about that on here before too. And that
Yeah.
that honestly, that's one of the major things that I introduced as well as far as my physical activity was one, stretching, and two, a little bit of yoga. My mindset of yoga beforehand was like these deep, crazy stretches that you got to hold for like 30 minutes, the hot yoga where you're all sweaty and all this type of stuff. And it's like, no, there's some pretty basic, simple things in the yoga realm. And there's so many different aspects of yoga that you can go down to. But
Hmm.
just the basic things. And again, starting my morning off right, starting my morning off with a light stretch, a light little yoga, it makes me feel so much better, and I feel it when I don't do those things,
Yeah.
when I get up and just kind of go, and
Right.
I'm like, oh,
Me
I'm
too.
fine. I'm in a rush. I got to go do this, and then halfway through the day, I'm like, oh man, I should have just spent that time.
Yeah.
And honestly, the yoga routine that I do is less than 10 minutes long.
Wow.
The stretching that I do is probably the same amount of time. So within about 15 minutes, it is all the difference in how I feel in the back half of the day. And it's
Yeah.
night and day difference,
See, there's a small thing that someone could try today. Just try a little
right?
stretching in the morning, a
Right.
little movement, make it 5 minutes, increase it to 6 minutes. Whatever you're
And
doing
that's how it
today,
started.
just do a little more tomorrow.
Right.
Just dial it up slowly and gently. Yeah,
That's
it doesn't
exactly
have to
how
be
it got started
overwhelming.
with me. I had this app. It was called, I think it was Daily Yoga. And they had a 6 minute morning routine on there. And that's what I got started with. It's like, that's all I
Lovely.
could do. I'm in such horrible shape. So I started doing that. Tried doing some push ups and squats. I was able to do like 5 push ups and I was hurting. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in such horrible shape. This is crazy. And and now it's like I said, it's excuse me, it's night and day difference. But one of the things that you mentioned was intervention. And when we spoke before, you made mention of intervention alignment framework, and your program, or one of the things that you came up with, was called CREAKS, right?
Hmm.
Acronym CREAKS. What? Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so when I talk to someone in the middle of a health concern, they're usually overwhelmed. Their doctors told them, I don't know what's going on, or I want you to be on a medication that doesn't really resonate with them. We just start talking about, their comfort level with looking at different kinds of interventions, medical, complementary, or lifestyle. But within all of those, there are different factors I think people should consider. After you get good at this, considering these factors, it becomes second nature, but I call them creeks. So it's cost, risk, effectiveness, effort, commitment, and support.
Mm.
So when you look at all of those cost, risk, effort, commitment, like cost, risk, effort. Oh my gosh, it's been late in the day. Cost, risk, effort. Oh my gosh, my brain just shut down. Well, rewind and listen.
What I said the first time.
Yeah, what I said the first time was there once. When you start to kind of think through, let's say acupuncture, look at how much is this going to cost me, and am I comfortable with that? How much risk is it going to be? Like, am I comfortable with that? How much effort is this going to take? Am I okay with all of that? And effectiveness, how effective is this going to be for the thing that I'm hoping it'll do? And then do I have the support to be able to do the thing? So there, my brain actually kicked in for a second. It is kind of late in the day. It's been a long day. But creeks, though. When I think of creeks, I just think it kind of rules out all the stuff that you really probably shouldn't consider as far as what you want to implement within a strategy. So if you want to really start working on something like lowering your cholesterol, for example, what are you going to look at that's going to be within your tolerance for cost, risk, effectiveness, effort? So what is it going to be that will fit in there? That's going to be one that you're going to stick with. Because if you don't have those in that tolerance level, it's gonna feel wrong. It's gonna rub you wrong somewhere along the way. You'll drop it. And so that's kind of a filter I use to help people kind of refine their strategy to help get better or improve in one way or another. It's like just make sure that you're not doing too much. It's not costing you too much. It's not going to
Yeah.
be too much effort. It's basic goal setting, but it's kind of in a way where, you just weed out all the stuff that isn't going to work right off the bat, so that you don't have to go through a goal and go, "Ah, I didn't like that, and I didn't meet my goal, and maybe it was because it was too hard, and if it was too hard, too much effort, you'd learn for the next time. But what if you didn't do that? Because once you not meet a goal, like New Year's resolutions season is a really good
Right.
example. When you don't meet that goal, you're less likely to do it again because you feel like you're kind of a failure. You didn't make it. So we don't want that.
Right.
We want people to build success, not build a list of failures. So what we're trying to do is just make it simplistic enough to just go, okay, yeah, this is going to work because it fits within my values. It fits within my parameters. It's like your guardrails.
Right, right. No, I love that. Yeah, because so many people get so down, like you said, if they don't meet that goal, and it's like, oh, well, I tried, and this is what
Yeah,
happens every time I try, and this is
exactly.
why I don't try, and yeah, you start going down that road, and it's like, man, well,
Yeah.
all right, let's take from this, let's learn from it, and this is how we grow is by seeing what went wrong and what I can do differently. When did I go left when I should have went right?
Hmm.
When did external variable come into play and throw me off? Like, all right, well, let me try this again and be mindful and wary of those things that can come into play and throw me off. Let me see where it is that I went left and what I need to do to go right. It's actually, unfortunately, kind of a rare thing nowadays for people to really self-assess like that, isn't it?
It is very rare. And I mean, that's one thing about learning from failure that I absolutely love. It's that
Mm-hmm.
open-mindedness to not drag yourself down with the failure, but build yourself up with it because there's so much learning opportunity within it. But nobody likes to fail. Nobody wants to not lose weight. Nobody wants to not be
Right.
able to get fit. And it feels like you're the failure, not the effort was the failure. The effort was the failure. You are not a failure. So creeks can keep
Mm.
you from going down that road where you're setting yourself to fail. Let's just keep yourself on the right track to set yourself up to succeed.
I love what you just said, and I want to write that down. Effort was the failure. You are not. That is huge. And especially, as I said, I'm a father now, and trying to teach that message to my kids can be hard at times. It's not, you are not the failure. And I've heard this quote before, you are far from a final product. All you have to do is, yeah, work on your effort and what it is and put more into that aspect of things. Be more mindful of what it is that you're doing and continue to evolve, continue to
Yeah.
figure things out. Never stop. And that's such a thing with not just kids, with adults too, is we're so afraid to be the fool. We're so
Mm.
afraid to, like you said before, be wrong or to quote unquote fail. And there is no failure as long as you're willing to get back up and keep trying, right?
I love that so much. I mean, I think of the S curve, the S growth curve. So at the bottom, you're just learning something. Say your kid is just learning to ride a bike. You're going to
Mm,
fail. You're just going to fail when you start something new. But then you
right.
start to get a little better and you become more skilled. And that's kind of that upward rise in skill of the S. And there you start to really feel proficient. You start to gain a lot of momentum. And then you kind of reach the top, which is mastery, where you really feel like you've mastered whatever that is. And with each skill that we learn, including weight loss, including exercise as an S curve, it's going to feel a little like failure at the beginning. You felt like you couldn't get those push ups out. That feels like failure. But you were just getting started. So don't feel like a failure when you're getting started ever. You're at the bottom of the S curve and it's a growth curve. So expect yourself to have a slow start. You're going to slowly gain momentum. And at some point in time, you're going to peak and then you're going to be a master of that. And that can be true for
Mm,
even living. Let's think about it in terms of a life cycle. We're constantly learning. We're never going to end up master in our life because we're constantly learning new variables. Everything's always new. You think you got
Right.
yourself down, wait till tomorrow, you'll have some new thing that'll come and knock you off your. Anyway, so you just continue to just think of it as an S curve that gives you patience to be in the process. You're never a fully baked loaf of bread. You're always in the oven. It's okay. You don't have to look perfect at the end of the day as a perfectly baked loaf of bread. That's not the goal. Perfection and doneness is never the goal. It's how we change and evolve and how fast we can change and evolve. And the more open minded we are, the more we're willing to learn and grow, learning from our past and adding to the new. And we can evolve our growth. And what's really fun is that we begin to like the S curve. Once we start doing this more, we like to learn more, we like to grow more, and it becomes more of this feeling of becoming rather than a feeling of having to do something. And so I love the S
Right.
curve for that.
Ooh, that is
Yeah.
amazing. I love that. I think that's my new favorite phrase, the S curve of life, of learning. Because you're so right. And I've said it before that I like to consider myself a student of life now,
Yeah.
that you never have to stop learning. And for me, that's exciting. If you would have told me that as a teenager,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh man, you mean this never ends? Like, oh no, it's such a daunting thought. Like,
No, I
I
bet
don't
you
know if
would
I
have
can
said, I
handle
know it
that.
all already.
Right,
Just
right, true.
kidding.
Nah, I already know it all. You don't need to
I
tell me
know this.
anything. I got it
You're
all
cool.
figured out. I was definitely that type. But yeah, now that I'm getting older, I love the fact that there's so many different aspects of life that
Mhm.
I can learn and grow from. And that, again, that's exciting for me. And I
Yeah.
love when I do learn something new and I get to go tell somebody about it. And I get to say, hey, did you know this? And seeing how they react to it. It makes life fun. And when you can
Yeah.
start looking at all the different aspects, like you said, all the different things that you can learn and look at that S and think about what stage you're at in there.
Yeah.
That again, that's so exciting.
Isn't
That's
it?
one of the best aspects of life is that you can learn so many different things and that never has to end. As long as you're here, as long as
No.
you have breath in your lungs, you can learn something
We
new
get
and
to
become a better
learn.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, some people can't learn. I mean, there are those people. We have the privilege of being able to learn and grow.
Mm,
We have the privilege of being able to walk every day. We have the privilege of being able to move. And when you
yep.
look at it with this gratitude, like, I get to learn, I don't have to exercise, I get to exercise. It all of a sudden
Right.
just becomes this gift that we have every day. And it
Yeah.
evolves into this feeling of just overwhelming gratitude to be alive.
Yeah. No, gratitude is an
Yeah.
attitude. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so earlier you had mentioned that you had one of the things that we were talking about in your book. So you have a book. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the craziest book on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. So it's a book that helps you make strategic health decisions. It's called Health Shift. So Health
Mm,
Shift is your guide to making strategic health decisions. And I wrote that book basically because I wanted to help unravel the process of making a health decision. I wanted to deconstruct it and reconstruct it to be a better path for people. So I call it the healthier journey. And really, it's just breaking it down and saying, all right, what is getting in the way of you making the best health decision possible? And
mm,
there's external forces, internal forces, and there's things you can control and things you can't control. But I don't get into too much the external ones. I get into the internal you because you can
mm.
control more than there are external forces. So the internal forces are weighing heavily upon us today. I think, our biases, our attitudes, our emotions all get in the way of our best health decision. And so this book just gently guides somebody as if they are the health hero of their own health journey. It doesn't tell you to do anything. It takes you through the process of growing into thinking in this new way and coming up with a healing action plan for everything that goes on. So you don't have to go to a health coach. You get to coach yourself. I don't think
Ooh,
there's ever been a book that has helped you coach yourself in this way. So that's why I'm like, this is the craziest book ever. That I
right.
actually wrote it just to get kind of my flag in the ground on the planet saying, this needs to happen everywhere. We need to teach our kids how to do
Mm,
this. And that's where it came from. Honestly, my kids have been through some really crazy health weird stuff. And one of my kids had the weirdest gut issue. And he went to doctor after doctor. They thought we were crazy. They thought he really didn't have a health issue. It was psychosomatic. No, he certainly had something going on with his gut. He was in a lot of pain. And so we decided to sit down while I figured out to make a fountain of options for him in medical, complementary, and lifestyle. I called it a fountain of options, and I wrote down like 5 under each. And I said, these are the ones I want you to do. And I think I picked just one medical and one lifestyle. And I said, you get to choose the rest. And it empowered him like you wouldn't believe. So he was 13 at the time. He ended up picking meditation as one of those interventions. And even today, and he's 22, is one of the most amazing meditators. He can meditate anywhere, under any stress. He's absolutely phenomenal meditator, but it has changed his whole personality. He has become calm and collected. He knows what to do with his health, so you can teach your kids this. And I thought, we have got to help people make better health decisions, and we need to just give them a system. This worked really well. Let's write a book about it. So that's what it is.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm most definitely going to get a copy of it myself. Where is that available?
Oh, it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Is it
and
on Amazon?
Dr. Alice
Okay.
Burron. Yeah, Health Shift is the name.
I
Yeah.
love that. I'm definitely going to check that out. That was,
Thank you.
I'm so excited to read that book now. The craziest book in the world. I'm so excited about it. Dr. Burron, thank you so much for coming on here and discussing such an important topic in today's world. Like I said before, mental health and physical health go hand in hand, and I'm so happy that there are people like you out there taking an active stance in helping people in the ways that you are. I'm so glad that we were able to do this episode. If you can, let the listeners know about your website, where they can start to check in and follow your path and what you got going on.
Yeah, thank you first off for all you do to help people grow and learn. So
Thank you.
just a phenomenal job of putting great content on a podcast out there in the world. So
No, I
thank you,
appreciate
Sean.
that.
Probably my most prolific place I show up at is in Substack. I have a newsletter, and it's called Health Shift with Dr. Alice Burron. It's a lot of the same principles in the book. So if you couldn't afford the book, it's there. I also have an ebook that's a lot, less expensive too on Amazon, but a lot of the same principles are in Health Shift with Dr. Alice Burron on my Substack. And so just type that into your search engine and you'll find that. And I post weekly there. I also have Instagram, and again, Dr. Alice Burron or Health Shift. It should show up. And my company and organization is called Strategic Action Health. And it's strategicactionhealth.org, where we are working with organizations to help their employees make better health decisions. And we use health literacy to do so.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I am a fan. You have made a fan, and I'm so excited to see what else you're capable of. Because again, like you said, you learn something new every day, and you're the type to, when you learn something new, you're gonna share it, and you're gonna get other people on board with it. Because if it makes a difference, then more people need to get into it. So,
Yes.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on here. This was amazing. You've blown my mind, and I'm very excited to read your book as well. So again, thank you. I can't thank you enough.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.